All right. And finally, new rule. I'm all for rallying around the flag, but let's not rally around the guy who missed all the red flags. Yeah, America has been slow and inefficient in responding to this crisis, and yet our leaders' approval rating is up because that's what we do. In times of crisis, our leaders get a bump in the polls, whether it's justified or not. Because a crisis is no time to think. And rallying around the president is just one of those irrational things we do in a crisis, like courting Charmin or praying. Especially if the president says he's a wartime leader, which this president says he is now. Unfortunately, that is a war on silence. You know, Americans have made this mistake before. On September 11th, 2001, as President Bush was reading My Pet Goat to school children, an aide whispered in his ear, "America is under attack." And he sat there looking like he forgot to turn off the stove. His response was, "The attack can wait, let's find out what happened to the goat." And then, of course, because America, Bush's approval rating went up. After the attack, the Bush people, much like the Trump people now, said, "Who could have imagined this?" Well, in both cases, experts. Yeah, experts did. Bush was repeatedly warned that Al-Qaeda could crash a plane into the Pentagon, and the FBI reported that weird holy men were training at U.S. flight schools, practicing the flying part, no interest in landings. And then there was the famous memo entitled, "Bin Laden Determined to Strike in U.S." Veronica Mars could have put this together in 40 minutes. Al-Qaeda did everything but send Bush an email that said, "September 11th, save the date." Now, was this current crisis preventable? Not all of it, of course. But we could have done what South Korea did. Their nightmare started the exact same day ours did. But while Trump shut up experts, happy-talked, and lied his ass off, South Korea put a strong testing program into place, and tracing people. And today, they have 21 times fewer the cases and 30 times fewer deaths. They didn't even have to do a big lockdown like we do. So their pets aren't always looking at them like, "Don't you have someplace to be?" If this is a war, Trump lost it in January. He's not FDR or JFK. He's LOL. So it's more than a little disturbing that he's getting a bump in the polls from all this. A bump which tells us we're once again entering into rally around the leader time. Around the guy who made it worse. I mean, come on. Toilet paper is now more valuable than the dollar. We do have actual heroes here. They're working in hospitals, doctors on the front lines, stockers at grocery stores, and cashiers at weed dispensaries. But not Trump. Let's stop doing this thing where we delude ourselves into lionizing someone just because they were there when the shit hit the fan. Giuliani was not popular in New York before 9/11. And then we had a crisis, and soon he was America's mayor. New York Magazine said, "People yearn to experience his presence." Yes, his wives not so much. And for the last 2 decades, Rudy has traveled the world as an international security expert, despite the fact that his big security decision as mayor was to override objections from the NYPD and the Secret Service and put the city's emergency command center in the one place it was most likely to be wiped out, in the World Trade Center, after it had been bombed the first time. It would be like stationing your tornado response team inside a trailer park. The root problem we got here is Republicans are better at politics, and so they get elected, but once in office, they can't do anything because their idea of government is dismantling government. So let's also skip the "we need to be less partisan" virtue signaling when it's obvious Republicans have a proud, proven legacy of government dysfunction syndrome. Yesterday it was Bush and Giuliani. Today it's Trump and McConnell and Ron DeSantis, and we can only be safer when every last one of them is voted out. All right, that's our show from my backyard. I want to thank my guests Bernie Sanders, Eric Garcetti, Max Brooks, Seth MacFarlane, and Willie Nelson, and I'll be in nowhere. I'll be here. But we'll be back next week. Thank you, folks. Good night.